Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be looking at what are the 10 best available 2D platformers on the Nintendo Switch eShop for less than $10. Now, I'm planning this to be part of a new ongoing series, and we're going to be looking pretty much at each category of game through each different price point and figuring out which are the ones that are most worth it. And I thought today that the perfect place to start would be with probably which is overall one of my favorite categories on the Nintendo Switch eShop 2D platformers, but also it's one of the most flooded categories. I think it's one of the categories where people need the most help figuring out which games are worth it and which are maybe passes. And just as a final point before we get started, the price I'm using to make them qualify as being under $10 is their regular list price. I'm not using any sale prices because I want this list to be available to anyone at any moment, meaning that anytime you check out this list and you want to pick up a game, you're guaranteed it's going to be under $10, whether it's on sale or not. Now, as usual, if you do like this video, please don't forget to hit the thumbs button. It's the best way to help out the channel, and also subscribe if you aren't already. So, starting our list at number 10, I'm going to be placing Butcher. Basically, if you've ever wanted to play Doom, but as a 2D side-scrolling shooter, Butcher is the perfect game for you. Now, the presentation is retro, the graphics are pixelated, but all the gore, carnage, and really shooting fun is all present in this game. And at $9.99, you're getting quite a decent package. There is a small warning, however, for this game because it is more on the difficult side. Meaning that if you don't have a tolerance for games that you might have to play the same level over a couple of times before being able to finish it, maybe Butcher isn't the best game on the list for you. However, if you do appreciate a little bit of difficulty being thrown into your games, and you do appreciate just being able to blow everything up on the screen, well then give Butcher a try at $10. It is, in my opinion, really worth its place on the list as one of the 10 best 2D retro platformers available for under $10. Now, as the second game on our list at number 9, we have Metalloid Origin. And this game is being sold for only $6.99 at its full price. And yes, it is based on the Mega Man formula, meaning that basically it's a 2D side-scrolling shooter with a lot of platforming elements. So while Butcher was more focused on the shooting, Metalloid is a 50-50 mix between platforming and shooting. And basically this time, rather than a little blue boy, you're controlling 3 cybernetic, almost half-cat people. And honestly, the variation with having 3 playable characters adds quite a bit of replayability to this game that sometimes some of the original Mega Man games don't have. And at the same time, they do some pretty original things in the formula. For example, rather than upgrading through absorbing the boss's weapon at the end of each stage, each cat can basically upgrade their weapons through currency that they pick up at the end of each level. Also, rather than having a set number of lives, you actually can use your currency to have as many lives as you need, and you generally have no problem picking up currency throughout the stages. So it is the Mega Man formula, but it's made in a much easier way to be able to progress in a linear fashion throughout the game. So in my opinion, Metalloid Origin is once again one of the 10 best platformers available for under $10. So now at number 8 on our list, we move away from cybernetic cats and we jump right into samurai dogs with Dogurai that is actually only $4.99. Now, if you're looking at the screen right now, you're seeing that this is a retro platformer based on Game Boy style graphics. And this game is definitely not the high point, it's basically not around the graphics, although I find them beautiful in a retro fashion. This game is really all about the mechanics and all about the difficulty. So far on the list, I would say this is the most difficult game I'm going to be suggesting today, so it does come with a little bit of a warning. However, it's not a gruesome, hard-hitting difficulty. It's a fair difficulty. When you mess up, it's because you haven't yet developed the skills to finish the stages. And at least, the game offers 2 modes. One with a finite level of lives where you'll have to restart the level from the beginning, and another mode with infinite lives where basically at any moment you can retry the level as many times as you need, only having to start from the last checkpoint you've gotten to, which is why I say it's brutally hard, but fair. And also, once again, even at $5, as a hint, once you've made it through the game, you actually unlock a second character that plays in a total different fashion, and the challenge is actually replaying the game with that second character, offering once again for under $5 now, quite a bit of replayability. So now next on our list at number 7, we have Daddish. Now don't be mistaken by the simple looking kid-like graphics. Daddish is one very complete and very fun action platformer. It even has a lot of puzzle platforming elements thrown into each one of its levels. Now in Daddish, you play a humanoid radish that basically has to save each one of his 50 kids by going through 50 different obstacle levels. Now sometimes he'll have to go around enemies, he'll have to defeat bosses, and he'll have to make his way around different traps. But basically what is most amazing of Daddish, and that I was not expecting when I tried this game out, is the actual humor throughout the game. Because each time Daddish saves one of his kids, he has some playful banter with them, and it really is amusing and actually pushes you to want to see what his next kid has in store for him. And even the dialogue between him and the different bosses is really hilarious. So Daddish is actually a game that I slept on for quite a while, and that I really regret it took me so long to discover, because it is one really awesome offering at only $4.99, because its regular price is only $5. And right now, it's even 50% on sale, as you can see, at $2.49. So it's important to note that all the games on this list, although I'm evaluating them at their full list price, they go on sale just like every other game, and you can sometimes pick them up for even more of a steal. So now the entry at number 6 won't come as much of a surprise, because we just covered Daddish 1. Daddish 2 will be my entry for the 6th game on our list. And at $9.99, it is double the price of the first entry, but it is still an extremely solid platformer. Basically, everything we just said about Daddish 1 is still true about Daddish 2. However, Daddish 2, in my opinion, is even more refined than the first one. The premise is still the same. Daddish has lost his 50 kids again, and he has to go through the 50 levels. However, they do play a lot, once again, humor-wise, on the fact that his kids are lost again, and that he has to go platforming through the levels once again. However, what's awesome about Daddish 2 is I found the game even more refined than the first time, because each and every level almost introduces a new mechanic, and almost no mechanic was used more than once or twice, and even when a mechanic came back for a second playthrough, it was used in a different way than the first time it was introduced, which meant that every level felt really original. The boss fights are still just as fun as in the first game, and what's even the best point in my opinion is that this time around they added some auto-running levels, which was really a nice refreshing change of pace from the overall platforming gameplay. And I actually just reviewed this game a couple of weeks ago for the channel, so if you want a lot more information, I really invite you to check out that review. But basically, that was one of the only points I said was going against it, is that those auto-running levels was such a refreshing change of pace that I would have actually liked more of them throughout the game. But anyway, even at $9.99, Daddish 2 is still a very solid purchase. So that brings us to the 5th entry on our list, and that will be Shantae Risky's Revenge, the Director's Cut. Now this is one of the more expensive games on our list at $9.99, but in my opinion, it is definitely worth it. And what's funniest overall is that just a few years ago, if you would have talked about the Shantae series, no one knew about these games. It only had a cult following. However, since then, it's become a staple of 2D platforming goodness. And Shantae Risky's Revenge is one of the earlier entries in the series. I'll be totally honest with you, it's probably not the best Shantae overall. However, at the same time, it is an extremely decent platformer, and it's the only Shantae available for under $10. Now, if you've never played Shantae, they are basically 2D side-scrolling levels, but you play a genie that can basically morph into different animals to go through the different obstacles of every level. And what really sets this series apart is just the quality with which the platforming is done, and overall, the fun that is translated through each one of the levels. And the director's cut is the best iteration of the game. So if you have never played this, or you've never even tried a Shantae, this is one that you should definitely pick up. So we're getting pretty close to the top of the list, and at number 4, I put Gunman Clive, the HD collection. Now normally, this is the collection combining Gunman Clive 1 and Gunman Clive 2. And normally it's only sold for $4.99. However, as you can see as of publishing of this video, it's currently on sale for only $2.49. However, even at $5, it is amazing value. And it's one of the games that is hardest to explain why it's as good as it is. But basically, whether it be the very simple yet amazing hand-drawn type graphics, or just the very solid platforming controls, or the Mega Man style level designs for most of the levels overall, Gunman Clive is just an amazing experience of a 2D platformer. It offers some really challenging boss fights, and honestly, as I said, the mechanics in the game are amazing, with each and every level throwing you new designs, new thematics, and almost never reusing the same obstacles twice, which is just amazing for a game at this price. Even at one point, you'll be fighting dinosaurs, riding on the back of a pterodactyl. The Gunman Clive series is just an amazing indie series and is one of the best reasons why I love owning a Nintendo Switch and having access to all these amazing games. So now we're at the big 3. And at number 3, I put what will probably be my most controversial choice, just because I think some people would have put this one lower on the list, but I will be putting Exit the Gungeon. I love this game. I loved its predecessor, Enter the Gungeon, and of course, I was a little bit disappointed when Exit the Gungeon, rather than going with the same type of gameplay, they went more with a 2D platforming bullet hell style. But at $9.99, I still can't argue that I had tons of fun with this game. And if you give it its chance and you actually put a few hours into actually getting pretty good at the game, you'll see just how great it is. And honestly, it is fun that the developers sometimes try something new, rather than just give us a new iteration of the same formula. Of course, I still hope that they go back to the first version and eventually give us a follow-up to Enter the Gungeon, but nonetheless, Exit the Gungeon is nonetheless, at under $10, one of the best platforming experiences you can get on the Switch. As I said, the bullet hell formula in super tight, tiny environments really works to have you keep platforming, moving, and challenging yourself to get better and better at each one of the different levels. So now we're at number 2 on our list. And I'll be honest with you, when we get to number 1, you'll see that these two games could have easily switched position at any moment. But I basically put at number 2, Shovel Knight King of Cards, which is available as a standalone release for only $9.99. Now, I am going to warn all of you that there is the treasure pack that is available for Shovel Knight that has the original game with all the expansions automatically included in it. And overall, if you're going to pick them all up and you don't own any already, it is probably better to get the pack. But if you're looking at just trying out one of the games because you're really unsure, or if you already own some of them and you were wondering if the expansions were worth it, they definitely are. And Shovel Knight King of Cards is an excellent game. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Shovel Knight series, it is one of the main series that is responsible for launching the indie craze that is now available on the Nintendo Switch. With its first entry, Shovel Knight Shovel of Hope, it basically showed you that tiny indie studios using very minimal resources could pop out top quality games that could even rival in fun top AAA releases. And Shovel Knight King of Cards is the last release for the Shovel Knight series, and it finally gives you control of the King Knight character, which is one of the first bosses you play in the game. I will warn you that he has quite a peculiar movement mechanic to him, because he basically spins at every jump, but nonetheless, in 2D platformers, this is overall even one of my favorites. Even when we're going to be getting into lists with more expensive games on it, the Shovel Knight series is still one of my overall, I believe, favorite 2D platformers. And even as we get into different price points, I still use these games as a reference point to what is an amazing 2D platformer for the Nintendo Switch. So with Shovel Knight King of Cards, trust me, you cannot go wrong if you want to experience an amazing 2D platformer. So that brings us now to the number one entry on my list, and that will be Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, which is also $9.99. Now, as I said earlier, the number one and the number two spot can probably easily be inverted for a lot of people. And it comes down to personal preference. I personally preferred the gameplay and the campaign from Spectre Knight than I did from King Knight's campaign. However, that will generally go down to personal preference. And the same reasons why this series is great, why the King of Cards series was great, applies to the Spectre of Torment series as well. Basically, at under $10, you get a fully fledged retro platformer of top-notch quality. And honestly, in my opinion, currently on the Nintendo Switch, if you want to play a 2D platformer and you want to spend less than $10, there is no better way to spend it than to buy Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment. It is basically all that is great with retro platformers, and as I said previously, it almost single-handedly proved that indie studios could develop amazing games without necessarily having huge AAA budgets. So that brings us to the end of the list for our first entry in this series. Now, I really want to hear from all of you. If you do like this series, please don't forget to like the video. It's the best way I know that this series is appreciated and that I should come out with them more often. I do plan on almost releasing a new chapter every week. So if you do like it, if you hit that thumbs up, it'll guarantee that I'll be making this series on a weekly basis. And just as a little spoiler, I plan on doing the top 20 games at each price point, and I already have my list of number 11 to number 20 available. So if this video does well and gets a lot of likes, you will guarantee that next week you'll be seeing number 11 to number 20 of the best platformers for under $10. But anyway, as I said at the beginning of the video, and I just mentioned, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Oh, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when all my new videos come out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.